The magnificence of Petersburg's palaces is well known, and the city is famous for its architectural ensembles. The first palaces belonged to the nobility, and now they are the most important architectural monuments in Petersburg. The Stroganov Palace is the green building where Nevsky Prospect meets the river Moika. It was built in the middle of the 18th century by Rastrelli. The Anchkov Palace. In 1750, on the bank of the Fontanka River, a palace for Count Alexei Razumovsky was built by the architect Zemtsov. Since 1937, the palace has housed the Palace of Children. The Menshikov Palace was designed by the architect Fontana. It was built between 1710 and 1714. The Summer Palace of Peter I. Peter's Summer Palace, built between 1710 and 1714 by Domenico Trezzini, is located in the garden. The facade of the palace is decorated with a narrow ornamental frieze and bas-reliefs on the mythological subjects glorifying Russia's victory in the Northern War. Such famous architects as Zemtsov, Schluter and Michetti took part in the decoration of the palace. Now the Summer Palace houses the Museum of History and Mode of Life devoted to Peter's time. This two-storey, modest stone building was Peter the Great's residence. The layout of the two floors is identical: 6 living rooms, a kitchen, and a room for servants. The top floor was occupied by Catherine I, and the ground floor by Peter. The palace is one of the oldest structures in St. Petersburg. The Winter Palace was built in the Baroque style and designed by the famous Italian architect Bartolomeo Rastrelli between 1754 and 1762. It was a residence of Russian Tsars and also has served as a repository of great art since the time of Catherine II. Today, the rooms of the Winter Palace house the collections of the State Hermitage. The State Hermitage is the largest museum in our country and the second largest museum in the world. Only the Louvre is larger. The Hermitage comprises 5 buildings. The Winter Palace, which was designed by Rastrelli between 1754 and 1762. The Small Hermitage, designed by de la Mothe in 1775. The Old Hermitage, designed by Felton between 1775 and 1787. The Hermitage Theatre, designed by Quarenghi. And the New Hermitage, designed by Klentz between 1839 and 1859, and also Stasov, Yefimov, and the sculptor Cherybiev. All the buildings are interconnected by passages in the form of arches, covered bridges, and a hanging garden. The oldest and the largest is the Winter Palace, which was built and designed in the Russian Baroque style by the eminent architect Bartolomeo Rastrelli between 1754 and 1762. It's executed in fine taste and is Rastrelli's masterpiece. The palace building is nearly 2 kilometers long in perimeter, 22 meters high. For a long time, the palace was the biggest and most elegant building in St. Petersburg. In 1837, the fire, which blazed for 3 days, destroyed everything but the brick walls. The restoration was done by the architects Starov and Bryulov. They completely preserved Rastrelli's exterior, while the interior was decorated according to the changed fashion. All these treasures were closed to the general public, and only Tsars and their courts had access. Catherine wrote of her possessions in the Hermitage that all this is only for the mice and myself to admire. Even many years later, only specially selected guests and members of the royal family and courtiers were allowed to enter. In 1852, the Hermitage was opened to the public as a museum, but common people were not admitted. After the Revolution, the Hermitage was opened to all people. There are many parks in St. Petersburg, and we shall describe just a few of them. The ensembles, which were designed by Rossi, are the most remarkable architectural and historical memorials of St. Petersburg. Ostrovsky Square was designed by Rossi. In the centre of Ostrovsky Square, there is a monument of Catherine II. The Summer Garden, the oldest in the city, was laid out in 1704. Peter the Great dreamed of creating a garden more beautiful than that at Versailles, and planted its first trees. The garden was created in regular style, with straight alleys and paths, clipped shrubs and trees. It originally had dozens of fountains and sculptures brought from abroad. There was a hothouse for exotic plants and rare birds. Swans swam in a canal specially dug for them. At first, water for the fountains was pumped by a great wheel, turned by horses, from the river nearby the garden, which has been called the Fontanka. Later, a water tower was built. Finally, water was brought from the Dudahof Lake, not far from the city, the level of which was about 75 metres higher than that of the Neva. The water first ran through a 20-kilometre canal to the city pool, and then 1.5 kilometres through the pipe system. The pipes were laid on the bottom of the Fontanka. It was a remarkable hydraulic project for its time. Disastrous floods of 1777 caused great damage to the summer garden. The fountains and some pavilions were not reconstructed. Peter the Great used the gardens as the location for festivities called assemblies. He ordered assemblies and masquerades to be held, and all courtiers and nobility gathered here with their wives and adult children. Sometimes they were required to arrive in rowing boats or sailing boats. Nobody could refuse from attending these assemblies. For a long time, the garden was open only to aristocrats. The following decree was issued by Nicholas I. The summer garden is open to all military men and decently dressed people. Ordinary people, mujiks, will not be allowed to walk through the garden. What can we see in the summer garden now? There is a monument of the fabulist Ivan Krylov. The writer is portrayed sitting with a book in his hands. The monument includes animals, birds, and other characters